speaking for every American right now. Need to call that orange feller. Give him his job back. Is this some bullshit? This some bullshit. This some bullshit.
Listen up, America. This is Michael Jackson. Don't believe everything you hear. It's lies. All lies. You hear? Trump didn't do nothing. And E. Jean ain't Trump's lover. And she knows that. And you know that. And we all know that. Let's just come together and have love and peace for America. Let's make America great again. Hee.
Sorry, he's a weirdo.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
What are you, retarded?
Shut up!
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
As the mayor of the city of New York, I don't, weigh into immigration issues, border issues. I have to provide services for families that are here, and that's what we're going to do. And that's what our responsibility as a city. I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state, and we're going to continue to do that. This is a place where the Statue of Liberty sits in the harbor, and we say, bring us your tide. And so our goal is every asylum seeker that comes to New York, we're going to get them shelter and support that they need.
Everything that guy just said is bullshit. Thank you.
Good morning to you both. At least for the next 5 days, the mayor has suspended that decades-old law here in the city, saying that there's really just no more room.
I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state.
Last night, there were 78,000 people in city homeless shelters, according to reports, and you can see behind me why. These folks are all asylum seekers, migrants who have been bused here to the city, waiting for a spot to check in with immigration officials this morning, and these lines only grow by the day.
And we say, bring us your tide.
In a new executive order, the city for 5 days has suspended the right to shelter policy in place since the 1970s.
Every asylum seeker that comes to New York, we're going to get them shelter.
It's false. No way. Not this time.
Hey, I didn't hear no bell. All right, that's right. Slip the jab. That's it. Mental right. See that bum in front of you. You see yourself doing right, and you do right. That Apollo won't know what hit him. You're gonna roll over him like a bulldozer. And I'll tell you.
Let's make America glam again.
I'm the elephant in the room, and I'm not afraid to sparkle.
They call it trickle-down fabulousness.
I believe in limited government, but unlimited glamour.
Don't tread on me unless you're wearing fabulous heels.
GOP stands for Glamour on Point.
I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'll never skimp on style.
I'm here to cut taxes and sashay away.
Stars, stripes, and stilettos. Now that's what I call liberty.
I'm here to filibuster with flair, Queen.
In God we trust, and in glam we must.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do but homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret zone at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
Berkshire Hathaway had their annual shareholders conference, and there was a proposal to have a separate CEO and chairman. So you had all these people able to get up there and have 3 minutes of speaking time. So Peter Flaherty, The chairman of the National Policy and Legal Center gets up there and right to Warren Buffett's fucking face starts talking shit about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
If we had an independent chair, the company would be less identified with Mr. Buffett's political activities. He's donated tens of billions to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As Bill Gates explained when the company was still together, although the company bears our names, basically half our resources have come from Warren Buffett. If woke culture is the disease, then philanthropy is the virus. The Gates Foundation bankrolls the teaching of critical race theory around the country, including that math is inherently racist. The Gates Foundation offers a gender identity toolbox, which asserts that gender is a result of socially and culturally constructed ideas. This is a lie. Gender is not a cultural construct. It is a genetic and biological fact. You're not going to censor what I say, ma'am. I'm very sorry. And I'll appeal to the chair that I be allowed to continue. Sir?
And he got briefly interrupted for a second, but then when he started talking about the connections to Epstein...
We know how much Bill Gates cares about children. He met and traveled with Jeffrey Epstein many times after Epstein's convicted sex crimes. The Gates Foundation had a huge influence over the COVID response.
Yeah, that was it. They cut his mic, they yanked him off the floor, and they had him fucking arrested.
Humans have a term for this. Bad luck and raw deal. And this is some bullshit.
And this is the kind of shit I love to see. Now that we live in the age of information, more and more people are taking that trip down the rabbit hole and figuring out the truth. What is that truth?
The world ain't what it seems, is it, Gunny?
No, sir.
You keep that in mind. The moment you think you got it figured, you're wrong.
And as that happens, you're gonna have some people in some high places decide to say, fuck it, and actually speak out. And one at a time, they can cut people's mics, they kick them out, they can arrest them. But once it hits critical mass, there's nothing they can do.
Are you sure?
Well, short of something like start a nuclear war.
Do me a favor, and don't say it's fascinating. No. But it is interesting.
But as I've said before, I'd rather live in a Mad Max world than a brave new 1984 world. So fuck it, let's let the dominoes fall. There was also an announcement on Twitter this week from Tucker Carlson. Apparently he's hooked up with Elon Musk and just gonna be putting his show out on Twitter. See, a lot of people had been saying that, well, Fox News still has him under contract, so he can't do anything. But apparently, that was just a contract saying that he can't sign with any other networks. Fox News, in their infinite wisdom, just assumed that, oh, well, we don't need to worry about the internet because they're nothing compared to our big bad studios and our budget and the prestige of legacy media. But then Elon turns around and hires this fucking lady to be the next CEO of Twitter starting in about a month and a half. Now, she had been the head of advertising at NBC Universal, which kind of makes sense because a lot of advertising dollars had fled. What's more troubling is her connections to the World Economic Forum and her being the chair of a fucking task force there. So now a whole lot of people are rightfully concerned about the prospect of throttling and censorship making its way back onto Twitter after all the strides they'd made. But overall, I think Musk has done a great job so far, so I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and wait to see how this plays out. I just hope he knows what he's doing. And something that was the smallest of blurbs in the news this past week, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan got arrested. And now, things are completely descending into chaos and possibly even civil war in Pakistan, which should make it somewhat of a news story considering they're a country that has nuclear fucking weapons. But Imran Khan, the guy that was the Prime Minister, was more of a populist kind of president and an outsider politically, not somebody that rose up through the corrupt ranks of the normal political machine. Well, there was a lot of pressure on him to denounce Russia and join in with the West on the sanctions and try to further isolate Russia. He didn't go along with that shit. And next thing you know, they're calling to have a no confidence vote. Well, after some back and forth, they decided, well, we're gonna let the people vote on this. And then the Supreme Court of Pakistan stepped in and basically nullified that and said, no, go ahead with the no confidence vote. And he gets ousted and then arrested for corruption, which in a place like like Pakistan is hilarious. But the people don't seem to be willing to take this bullshit. A lot of them see it as the US and the State Department meddling and basically doing what they do, enacting regime change in any country that doesn't go along with their prerogative at the time. It's unclear at this point where this is headed exactly, but it is something worth paying attention to, seeing as how, like I said, they are a country with nuclear weapons. And as for this Trump town hall they had on CNN on Wednesday, I was actually planning to watch it and I just forgot all about it. And then when I woke up on Thursday morning, I just started seeing clips of it everywhere. It didn't go the way CNN had hoped. You had this manly-looking, unlikable twat running the shit like it was not so much a town hall, but a debate between her and the former president. The questions from the audience were kept to a fucking minimal. It was mostly just her arguing with him about everything and getting fact-checked live. The moment when he pulled out the copies of his tweets when she tried to say that it was 3 hours on January 6th before he told people to go home.
Why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out.
Holy shit, that's priceless.
Did they change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about presidents exploiting.
Meaning you could do it.
That's not what it means.
Thank you.
They strengthened.
In Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
And of course she wanted to talk all about the civil case that he had just lost in New York against that crazy lady that accused him of raping her in a fucking dressing room of Bergdorf's.
What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings him up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President.
I have no idea who the hell. She's a whack job.
And the part about how she had named her cat Vagina, and he said it just like he says China.
Vagina, vagina, vagina.
In the end, you had the audience laughing with him and at this dumb bitch. You could almost hear somebody in the control room yelling, "Pull the ripcord, abort, abort." It was such a massive failure that CNN actually cut it short by 20 minutes. It was originally scheduled to be an hour and a half long, and after 70 minutes, they went ahead and pulled the plug, but the damage had already been done.
Terry, Terry, here's your words. Here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy. You weren't murdered, buddy.
That was President Donald J. Trump ripping us a new asshole here on CNN's live presidential town hall. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
And there was no way for even the left-wing outlets to spin it. So now they're all pissed off at CNN, almost as much as they're pissed off at Trump. And as for this lady who is totally not a dude that hosted it, guess who she used to work for?
From our nation's capital. Caitlin, what does that mean? What's George Soros trying to do with the immigration crisis?
Good morning. Okay, so George Soros is this foreign-born left-wing guy who essentially wants to change the nature of our country. And in this data dump, one of the memos was about the refugee crisis. And they made 3 points. They think that they've been successful at influencing immigration policy across the world. They think that the refugee crisis is an opportunity to continue doing so. And they think the refugee crisis is the new normal. And George Soros is this guy who is a staunch advocate for open borders. He wants people to be able to go wherever they want, whenever they want, for whatever reason. And for him, he sees this immigration policy, this crisis, as a vehicle to further his immigration agenda.
It just goes to show you what a sham this whole two parties dueling it out bullshit is. And speaking of which, on Wednesday, Comer and a bunch of other Republicans gave their little press conference like they had promised to, and they unveiled a bunch of the evidence they uncovered of the millions of dollars that were funneled from China and Romania to not just Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, but they structured it among shell companies. And payments were even being funneled through the grandchildren.
What we're proving to you today is showing you actual bank records, actual evidence of shell companies and businesses, or more businesses and more Bidens involved that we knew of. You have to issue more subpoenas because every time we turn over a rock, there's more information. There's more possible corruption. There's more possible allegations that need to be investigated. This is what we know today. Money flowed from the Chinese Communist Party, aligned with individuals into American shell companies, and then that money was wired and transferred to Biden family members. The Chinese Communist Party affiliated entities may have bought influence with the Bidens that they couldn't get otherwise, and obviously for good reason. These alleged layering schemes are repetitive. They knew what they were doing, they knew how to do it, and they did it multiple times all over the world. If it looks complicated and sounds complicated, it was intentionally made to be complicated so you could not follow the money. And what we're trying to do today is show you how to follow the money. These people didn't come to Hunter Biden because he understood world politics or that he was experienced in it, or that he understood Chinese businesses. They wanted him for the access his last name gave them. Access to the Chinese Communist Party they couldn't otherwise get. The Biden family needs to answer for this, and the DOJ needs to get off its ass and investigate. We've done the work for them so that they can't screw it up now. If these allegations, any of these allegations are proven true, then someone with the last name Biden needs to be charged, prosecuted, and maybe spend a little time in prison to take to account and responsible for the actions they've taken today. Also, as mentioned by the chairman, I want to thank you. The legislative priorities we have of our committee, this is not a witch hunt. This is not a conspiracy theory. If there are anti-corruption laws that need to be made stronger, we will also do that. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So what's being done about all this? Fucking nothing. It was just a little bit of red meat to keep the red team's base fired up. In the days after it, there wasn't a mention about any of that shit. All they wanted to talk about was fucking George Santos getting indicted for being a lying piece of shit. He did what pretty much every congressman and senator does, lie to get into office. At least he was actually refreshingly honest about that and said, yeah, well, I mean, I lied to get into office. That's what politicians do. But they're gonna hem him up on some campaign finance laws and some shit like that, and it ends up just being some red meat for the blue team's base. And the day after all that shit went down on Thursday, we had Title 42 expire. And the masses didn't even wait for that to happen. In the days leading up to it, they already started flooding across the border and filling up all the detainment centers, and the news is somewhat reporting on it. They're just dutifully reporting what Mayorkas and the other asshats in the government are telling them, which is that, oh, well, these people were rushing across early to try to beat Title 42 because when Title 42 ended, they were also reenacting a rule change where if you don't apply and get rejected asylum in some other country, then we're going to immediately deport you and you can't come back and try again for 5 years, which sounds all well and good, but that's not what's happening. A lot of them aren't even trying to check in. They're just flooding across and going whatever the fuck they want to. The ones that do get processed, they just hand them a notice to appear in court in a date sometime in 2026, and then they're given a clear plastic bag with a cell phone and instructions on what to do in Spanish and English, how to apply for food stamp assistance and Medicaid and all the other benefits, a debit card with some money on it, and then they put them on a bus and they ship them to places like Chicago and New York, and from there they're going to disperse to other places. And this is one of the few legitimate purposes that the federal government was actually set up to protect against. Because if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. And the states themselves, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, he tries to act like he's doing something about this, but he's really not. What's he doing? He's putting them on buses and he's sending them to other places in the U.S. Oh, but it's not like he could mobilize the National Guard to shore up the border himself. Oh, but wait, yes he could. See, if there's actually an invasion going on, he doesn't need Congress to authorize any kind of military operation. He can take care of it himself, because there is a proviso in the Constitution saying that if you're being invaded, that you're not only allowed to, but you're required to do something about it. And that goes for Arizona, New Mexico. Well, you know, California ain't gonna do a goddamn thing. But unless somebody steps up and does something, this is gonna end up being a major problem. You combine this with us fucking around with starting World War III with two different countries, China and Russia, all the different countries in the world that are moving away from the dollar, the massive debt bubble that's looming over our heads about to burst any day now. All of these problems and some more surprises are going to end up converging. I think a big chunk of next week's episode, maybe even the whole episode, are just going to be on preparations that you can be taken no matter what your budget level, because at this point there's no excuse for not getting ready. What we call preppers or doomsday preppers now, those words are going to become obsolete one day. Those people are just going to be referred to as people that are still alive. See you next week. Slancha.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on.
Stupid fuck! Look at you now!